Hello, welcome to this presentation. We're just going to give it another minute or so for folks to come in. Okay, thank you so much for joining this presentation tonight. So my name is Nick Albanese, and I am an Assistant Director of Admissions with Salve Regina University. I am actually an alumnus of Salve. I graduated back in 2012, and I was based on the East Coast for a number of years before moving out to the West Coast in 2015. So now I work with all of our students from the Western US. If you're wondering what Salve Regina means, it means Hail Holy Queen in Latin. It's part of the Catholic prayer. And the Sisters of Mercy who founded Salve Regina were really fond of this prayer. Hail Holy Queen, Mother of Mary. And they would say this prayer, asking for guidance and hoping for a university to be created or to have the funds to create a university. And finally, a building was actually donated to the sisters, and they were able to start the university back in the mid 1940s. But the mission of Salve goes back, over 200 years to the founding of the Sisters of Mercy with Catherine Macaulay in Dublin, Ireland. The sisters were known a little bit of the radicals. They would walk in the streets. They were not cloistered. And if they saw folks in the streets of Dublin, Ireland back then in the 1800s that needed help, they would provide that help. So if people were down on their luck and they needed social services, they wanted to break cycles of poverty. They wanted to empower people to really be able to help themselves. And so they founded a number of orphanages and schools and work centers. And they spread out throughout the world, and they came to the US in the 1800s, and Salve Regina was founded not too long after that, after World War II. So I always like to point out our mission statement because I think it really says a lot without needing to go into too much detail. And the very first line of our mission statement is, as a community that welcomes people of all beliefs. Then we go on to say, Salve Regina University, a Catholic institution founded by the Sisters of Mercy, seeks wisdom and promotes universal justice. Our mission statement ends with the words, we work for a world that is harmonious, just, and merciful. Some of the ways we do that are we ask our students to think about critical concerns like earth, immigration, nonviolence, racism, and women. And we ask our students, what can you do to improve the world around you in these areas? A lot of our students, when they come to Salve their first year, they may not feel like they have that confidence to really make change in the world around them. But over time, over their 4 years, they gain in that confidence so that when they graduate, they're ready to go out and make a difference in really whatever field that it may be. Salve has a little over 2,000 students studying more than 50 undergraduate majors. And we have a lot of the popular programs like business, administration of justice, biology, chemistry. We are very well known for our nursing program, which is direct entry. So students are admitted right to the program, and they begin taking classes freshman year. And in their sophomore year on, they have clinicals. Salve actually guarantees the clinical rotation, so our nursing students will finish in 4 years and have a variety of experiences in lots of different healthcare settings. We also have some unique programs. We have a Bachelor of Arts in Dance, and students that want to major in dance, theater, really any visual and performing arts can qualify for a scholarship up to $6,000 that you can stack on top of your merit scholarships. We also have a very unique major called Cultural and Historic Preservation. So students in that program learn how to identify, catalog, protect, restore, advocate for historic objects, buildings, and even neighborhoods. So it's a very unique interdisciplinary major, and it makes sense that we have a cultural and historic preservation major. because Salve Regina's campus is located in one of the best kept historic districts in the United States. We are located in the Mansion District of Newport, Rhode Island. And we're not just located there, we actually took over 7 of the estates built in the 1800s. So mansions, carriage houses, barns, stables, old potting sheds. We took those buildings and we renovated them, and we've won lots of awards over the past several decades for our adaptive reuse of the space. We turned those buildings into the residence halls, into the classrooms, and then we added a number of newer buildings over the years. For example, we just spent $1 million renovating our main academic center. So we have really state-of-the-art mock hospital rooms for our nursing labs. We have really up-to-date and very technically excellent science equipment that normally you would find at large research universities, but we don't have graduate students in our sciences, so our science students can actually use that equipment. And in fact, we actually have funded research for those students so they can stay 12 weeks over the summer doing research with a professor one-on-one. So those are just some of the neat things about our campus. In addition to having these historic structures and these historic buildings, we are a level 2 arboretum. We're the only one in Rhode Island as a college campus. So we have hundreds of species of flowers and plants, flora and fauna all over our area. We're located right on the cliffs on the ocean. And probably the most important thing in my perspective is that we are an open campus. We have no gates, no walls. We are totally a part of the neighborhood. So being on an island in this super historic district, in the buildings that make up the district, I think our students feel very comfortable getting off campus and getting out of the bubble that college can sometimes become. I really like that our students are exposed to a wide variety of perspectives, and it's not just the current students that are their age. They also get into the town and get very involved with the people of Newport, Rhode Island. Newport has a very strong tourism industry. So the tourists pretty much go away between Labor Day and Memorial Day, really this time of the year. And there's about 20,000 year-round residents in Newport. So our students are very much getting off campus, interacting with people in the town. It's a very reciprocal relationship. And I think it's what makes Salve stand out among so many other private colleges in New England. A lot of colleges are kind of gated off or in their own little zone. Or if they are part of a community, they may have more of a sort of urban campus where it might be a little more spread out, and they're not really, they don't really have much of a campus feel. So I think Salve is a nice blend between those two things. We are located right in Newport, Rhode Island. So you can see the bridge in the right photo. You go over the bridge and you come out into downtown, which is the left photo. And Newport is this, quintessential New England town. It's got buildings from the 1600s, history sites from the Revolutionary War, cobblestone streets, brick buildings, all of these wharfs that go out onto the water with restaurants and shops on the ground level, and then apartments on the second and third floor that many of our upperclassmen students will rent out. And it's a really cool town to go to college in. And then right up the hill from downtown, so if you look at the right photo, kind of where that tree line is, that begins the Mansion District neighborhood. And then in the foreground of that right photo, right on the cliffs on the ocean, that's where our campus is located. So everything is very close together. Students can walk downtown in about 15 minutes, but we also have free transportation on the bus system. We have shuttles, we have bicycles that we rent for our students. All Rhode Island students can ride the bus, by the way, for free. So they can go up to our capital, Providence, which is just 40 minutes away, visit one of the other 9 colleges in the state, and that's all a pretty easy thing to be able to do. So there are so many things to do on campus. We have 19 varsity sports. We're Division III. We're very well known for sailing. Our students sail year-round. They go to warmer places in the winter months. For example, they go to Hawaii every couple of winters. We have excellent club sports. We have equestrian. We have rugby. And even though it's a club sport and students with very little to no experience are able to join, we've actually been national champions more than once in the past decade. We have over 60 student-led organizations. So you can see our multicultural student organization there on the top right. We have something called the Pell Center for International Relations and Public Policy. And this was founded by Senator Claiborne Pell. He's very well known for the Pell Grants back in the 90s as an act of Congress. And the Pell Center is sort of like a think tank on campus. We bring together experts in policymaking, in government, with stakeholders from communities, and we try to solve problems at a local, regional, and even international level. We have visiting lecturers as part of the Pell Center, and we also are able to bring in speakers from all over the world, some of the thought leaders of our generation. This year, we had Dr. Cornel West come to campus. In the past, we've had Dr. Jill Biden, we've had Senator John Kerry, we've had the Dalai Lama, we've had the Prince of Liechtenstein. So I think it's pretty neat that our students are able to hear from these folks. They just roll out of bed, walk a few feet, and go to the lecture hall to hear from these people. But if you're in our honors program, you also have the privilege of getting to meet some of these speakers. We always have activities going on. And, we're actually required to have activities on the weekend. Sometimes students ask, are you a suitcase college? I would say absolutely not. 85% of our students are not from the state of Rhode Island. Our first year students do not have cars, although there's lots of transportation options, as I mentioned before. And we have students from 40 states and 20 countries, and we have to have events on the weekends. So there's always something to do. Students are not going home on the weekends. We always have some kind of programming like carnivals, magicians, festivals, concerts, comedians, hypnotists. There's all kinds of things going on, and most of it is free or very low cost to our students. We have a number of trips as well. We have bus trips up to some of our local cities, to Providence, to see the PPAC, the Providence Performing Art Guild. We also have trips to Boston to see maybe a Celtics game or a Bruins game, trips to Broadway and Manhattan. And so it's one of the neat things about being located in New England. We're on this island, we're kind of off in our own little world, but we have very close proximity to major cities and so many other states and things to do. Community service is also very big at Salve. All of our students are required to do it, but I think they want to do it as well. And most students go well and beyond the minimum hours. In fact, we, as a university, give back tens of thousands of hours in community service right on the island with over 60 organizations. So right in our community, making that impact every year. Now kind of shifting gears and talking a little bit about our admissions process. Salve Regina has a very holistic admissions process. We want to get to know students. We want to understand you in the context of your learning environment. And we don't want to only evaluate you based on your grades. Academics are always going to be the most important factor. That's a given. But we also want to know, what are you involved in school? Are you involved in clubs? More than one club or sports? Do you take on leadership roles in those activities? Were you the head of the play or the captain of the football team? Did you contribute? Did you give back? Do you have a commitment to social justice? Do you want to improve the community around you? Do you show an interest in Salve? These are all things that we're looking at when we consider your application. But in terms of academics, if you look at the middle 50% of the students that are admitted, the weighted GPA is between a 3.2 and a 3.9. So what that says to me is that while most students have between that B+ and an A- GPA, we have 25% of our class coming in with above a 3.9. Those may be our nursing students or students interested in our honors program. But then 25% of our students have below a 3.2. And I love that every once in a while we can take a chance on students that are maybe just starting to hit their academic stride a little later in high school. So their overall GPA is a little bit lower, but we're seeing improvement in junior and senior year, for example. And when we take a chance on those students, we feel pretty confident that they're going to do well when they're admitted. And by and large, they do. They come to Salve, they thrive, they have an incredible experience. I want to really emphasize this point. Salve Regina is test optional. We have been test optional for nearly a decade, so we know how to do it well. I think a lot of colleges are kind of figuring out, how do I be test optional? They're just doing it this year because of the pandemic and having to shift their enrollment strategies. And we looked at the data over a decade ago, and there was no correlation between a student's test score in high school and their GPA when they got to Salve. So we said, we're not going to require it unless students really feel like it reflects their ability to do well in college. So at least for Salve, if you do not submit test scores, you are not any less likely to be admitted or to have lower scholarships. We really do a very holistic evaluation. We balance everything out, and we want to understand how well you're doing and who you are as a student, and not just what you did during, a couple hours in a test center. You'll see that our averages are higher for nursing. That kind of makes sense, right? But even there, our nursing averages are definitely not as competitive or as intense as some other parts of the country, especially the West Coast. I work with students from California, for example, and nursing is very competitive in that state, just to kind of give you an example there. If you're an international student, we do require a language proficiency exam if English is not your first language, and if you don't submit the SATs. So kind of moving on from here, when do you apply to Salve? You can apply in the fall, in the winter, or in the spring. And really the biggest difference is, what amount of senior grades do you want to show us? Do you want us to evaluate your application just based on your freshman through junior year? If so, apply November 1. If you want us to see your first marking period senior grades, apply January 5. And if you want to show us a progress report from your second marking period, you really want to show us a lot of your senior grades, apply February 1. Students tend to be admitted at about the same rate, whether they apply EA1, EA2, regular decision. So we really want to let you put your best foot forward and apply when you think it's going to make the most sense. And we're very happy on the admission side to have candid conversations with our applicants. So if you want to ask us about, when should I apply? Should I submit my test scores? Really anything like that, we can have sort of those off the record conversations and talk to you and make sure that you're able to put your best foot forward when you apply. New this year, we are offering early decision. So if you are very sure that Salve is the school for you, you couldn't imagine going anywhere else, you just want to be done with the process, you want to know exactly where you're going around Christmas time, and then just be done with it, you can apply early decision. It is binding though. So when you choose Salve, you have to rescind your offer of admission to other colleges. You're going to make that commitment to come to Salve. But all of our other options, EA1, EA2, regular decision, are not binding. In the state of Rhode Island, we ask that you try to get your FAFSA, your free application for federal student aid, in by March 1. But this is a tip, no matter where you're applying, the FAFSA opens on October 1, so it's coming up really soon, and we encourage you to get that started as soon as possible, so that it's like one less thing that you have to worry about. Did I get my FAFSA in? Is that documentation done? So you can get that in the next couple of weeks. But in terms of financial aid, being a private college, Salve is going to have a higher quote unquote sticker price, or our total cost of attendance. The way that we come up with that total cost, we look at our direct billed charges like tuition, room and board, and then we also estimate expenses. We try to take a broad average of what students might pay for textbooks, for personal expenses, for transportation. And again, these are just averages, but our total cost of attendance with all of that in mind comes out to $63,000. Very few students pay that total cost of attendance because nearly all of our students have a financial aid package. That financial aid package could be made up of money that you don't have to pay back. So that could be merit-based scholarships, need-based grants, which we determine by you filling out that FAFSA. It could be based on work study. So, you work towards making a certain amount of money. It could be based on loans, which you do have to pay back. So usually students have a combination of these different factors. The best way to get a sense of what Salve is going to cost your family is, of course, to just go through the process. But then the next best way is to do something called a net price calculator. And all of the accredited colleges around the United States are required to have a net price calculator. So I encourage you to go into Google, type in net price calculator and Salve Regina University, or whatever college you're looking at, and it'll give you a pretty good idea of the bottom line of what is one full year going to cost after I get my financial aid package, and I kind of subtract that from the total cost. And I think you'll find for most families that Salve's net cost, or what your bottom line, what you actually pay, is going to be a lot less than that total cost. We also recognize that this is kind of an unusual year, with the pandemic, and families' financial situations may have changed, and the FAFSA is based on your family's prior tax season. So, just definitely encourage you to get in contact with our financial aid office after you submit the FAFSA and go through your package, or you're able to look at your package, because they can use their institutional judgment and the available funds that we have to potentially adjust your package if you've had an impact due to COVID, for example. So we want to make sure that we are being merciful and we're understanding the situations of our families within our means, whatever we're able to do. But our merit scholarships range from $12,000 to $25,000. You're automatically evaluated for them. One pretty unique thing about how we evaluate students for merit awards is that we're not only basing them on the GPA or the grades. We love our 4.0 students, and we have plenty of them. As I mentioned, 25% of our students have above a 3.9, but we also love students that are going to be very involved, hopefully have fun, contribute to our community, make us a better place, stay active when they're graduated. And that's not going to only be those 4.0 students. And I think that helps Salve to be an environment that is certainly rigorous, but much more collaborative than competitive. Everyone is not trying to beat each other to be the top of the class. They just want to enjoy learning. And I think you'll find that when you look at our vibe and if you're able to visit the campus. But speaking of visiting, we have a number of ways to connect with us. So if you go to salve.edu/visit, you will see plenty of opportunities going on throughout the fall. We have 2 open houses coming up. They are online, and they're a great way to really get a sense of the academics. There's an academic fair, so you can view multiple presentations and really take a deeper dive into particular majors that you may have an interest in. You can meet with current students. So there's just a wealth of presentations, and we encourage you to attend one of those if you're able to. We also have workshops, and these are just supposed to be generic workshops. We're going to talk a little bit about Salve Regina in these workshops, but we hope that they'll be just useful information to help you with the college process. And especially if you are maybe a younger student, maybe you're going into your junior year, they're a really nice way to kind of get an idea of, what is the essay all about? How do I write those? How does financial aid work? So we're going to have those workshops coming up this month. We do have some in-person tours, but they're very limited because they're socially distanced tours. It's basically a private tour with a tour guide and a family. And so you can go to our website to see if there's any availability there. But then we have a number of virtual information sessions that are kind of similar to this. So if you'd like to have this kind of format again and ask questions, you can do that as well. And those are some of the main things that I really wanted to share with you tonight. What I would also leave you with is Salve is in the minority of colleges that decided to go sort of one step down from being fully in person. So we're mostly in person, the way that we adapted to the coronavirus. So every classroom has been adapted so that there's teleconferencing equipment. If students want to participate online or they need to participate online, they're able to, but then many of the classes are still able to be held in person. And we had the ability to pivot and go fully online if we had to as well. We had been open for over a month. Many of our students had to quarantine for 2 weeks in order to come into Rhode Island as part of the state guidelines. Then we had orientation, and then classes began a little after Labor Day. And we've done over 4,000 asymptomatic tests, and we've only had 2 positive cases. We expect to have more cases, but I really think that shows that our students are abiding by our honor code, that we have the kind of community that is able to respect those policies, and that we're able to offer our students as close to an in-person experience as you can have during a pandemic. And I hope that gives families some assurance that we're willing to be flexible and work with students, and that we're able to provide this kind of learning environment and really adapt, despite really remarkable challenges. And then the final thing I'd like to just leave you with about Salve Regina, there are dozens of colleges in the East Coast, and it gets a little confusing how to compare them, but it's all about the fit. You should be asking about your academic fit, your social fit, and your financial fit. Academic fit, it doesn't mean you have to know exactly what you want to study, but are there options? And what is the academic environment like? The social fit, is it a place where I'd want to live for 4 years? Is it a community that I'd want to be a part of? And that financial fit. Every college is an investment, but is this an investment that is going to make sense? And if you look at our outcomes, 98% of our students are employed or in graduate school within 6 months of graduating. And out of those students that are employed and begin paying back their loans, less than 1% default on their student loans. And that's an incredibly low rate compared to the national average. So that means that our students are making the kind of salaries where they're able to pay back those loans and that investment really paid off for them. So if you have more questions, I encourage you to you can send me an email. My email is right there on the screen, nicholas.albanese@salve.edu. And I hope that you'll go to salve.edu/visit and check out some of our upcoming events. But thank you so much for listening to my presentation tonight. I hope that this gives you a better idea of Salve Regina. And I hope that you enjoy this college going process. It's a really cool opportunity to learn a little bit more about yourself as a student and what your priorities are. And it's a really remarkable time in your lives as you transition into adults. So I hope you enjoy the process, have fun. Thank you very much for listening tonight, and take care.